Hello, everyone. Your boy Jeff here with you again, and I think this is a Spin Zone video. I think this is number 83, if I'm not mistaken. Mazzy's caught up to me with his Whack-A-Mole series. I think he has like 82. I have no doubt he's gonna pass me by and leave me in the dust at some point, at the rate I'm putting these suckers out. But yeah, it's end of October. It was snowing this morning up here in around the Chicagoland area. It snowed yesterday too, which kind of sucked. I have a feeling it's going to be another cold and brutal winter. I think that's what the Farmer's Almanac said. I'm starting to move this around a little bit. But yeah, this is like I said, it's a Spin Zone. I've got a good 10 albums here to show, and like I said, today is October 27th. It's my wife's birthday, by the way. So spending the day with her, except to film this. And a lot of the listening I did for this round took place earlier in the month. I had the week of the 5th off on vacation, and that was the chance I had to spin the majority of these records. And I'll start with the big one first. This is the Bob Dylan Bootleg Series, volumes 1 to 3. As you can see, it's the LP edition, 5-album set. And of course, well, there's no way I can zoom on this track list without cutting most of it off, but there's a lot of music on this set. So what I would do is every morning I would play one of the albums from this set, and then in the afternoon-ish I would play something else. So over the course of a week, I spent it with, my mornings were spent with Dylan. What can you say about this set? I mean, this came out originally in the early 90s, I think. This is the reissue from 2018 that I picked up, and I think I'm certainly no Dylan scholar. I probably couldn't begin to do justice to talking about this set. I mean, a lot of it is like the first 2 or 3 albums are all from his early albums from the early 60s. I'll just put some of it in there that you can see some of the song titles. Just Bob with an acoustic guitar, some harmonica here and there, but just amazing stuff. And listening to this set, I mean, I have several other Bootleg Series sets of his. I don't have all of them, but I've got a good few. I think more than any other artist, Bob Dylan probably has the greatest demos and outtakes of any other artist. Because the stuff on here, you listen to it and you think, why didn't this make the cut, for the album? Some of the songs are alternate takes too. I mean, it's not all demos and stuff that didn't make it onto albums, I should say that too. But yeah, sometimes it makes you question Bob's own opinion of his own work. Because a lot of these songs, I'm sure, other artists would kill to have on their albums. But for Bob, it wasn't good enough, or it just didn't fit at the time. So this covers his career, like I said, from 1961 to 1991. And I'm not going to lie, the majority of the material comes from the 60s. I mean, the last 2 discs are from, the 70s, 80s, and I don't even know if there's a 90s cut on here. There might be. But I think it actually cuts off at 89 with Oh Mercy. But I would probably go as far to say this would be a must-have if you're a Dylan fan, and you probably already have it. If not, spend the money, get this in any format you can. I chose the LP version just because I'm a vinyl junkie, so that's what I went with. But yeah, just unbelievable stuff. And if you're a Dylan fan, this will go down just fine. So, and I'm actually a big fan of his bootleg series albums too. I've been picking them up fairly regularly over the past few years. So, had to go back to the beginning, listen to the first one, and wow, that's pretty much all I can say. All right. The rest of these albums are pretty much in the order I've listened to them, and like I said, majority came during that vacation week. Like this one here. This is the excuse me, Cheap Trick. Are You Ready? Live. This was their Black Friday Record Store Day release from last year. It's a famous concert from New Year's Eve 1979 when Cheap Trick were the kings of rock and roll. And just back, it's a double album. Sounded perfect, and it came with those reproduction orange 70s epic labels, just like the new set that came out from 77, which I have in the pipeline. It's coming. So I did get out of this third Record Store Day drop, not to change the subject, but just briefly, I was able to get just about all the albums that I was looking for, and even one surprise. So, and one of those was the Cheap Trick live from 77. But this one here was from 79 going into 1980. Fantastic show. I mean, Cheap Trick is just a phenomenal live band. I enjoy their studio albums, the ones that I have, which are mostly their 70s albums. But live, these guys just kicked ass. So if you're able to track this down and you want a good snapshot of a band at the peak of their powers, arguably, this would be a great listen for you. Cheap Trick, Are You Ready? Live. Love it. Then we had the anniversary of John Lennon's birthday. Would have been 80 years old. And of course, it also marked the sad occasion, well, it will in December, that it'll be 40 years since he was killed. So with that in mind, I had this record from the Neighbor Hall, John Lennon live in New York City. I had the VHS cassette of this show I got when this came out in 1986. I no longer have that VHS cassette. Of course, I no longer have the capability to even play VHS. But I was already familiar with this show. So when I saw this album in the Neighbor Hall that I got months ago, I was pretty excited about it. So of course, that's what I pulled. Record's mint. It played wonderfully. And I mean, this was a show from 1972. So you've got, his solo material up to the Sometime in New York City album. So you do get a few cuts from that album, which, But the only Beatles song he plays is Come Together. Everything else is from his solo period. The backing band, I wish he had a better band than what he had, which I think they were called Elephant's Memory. They're okay. I think he could have done better, but at the time, this was really Lennon's only solo concert performance that he gave in his time after the Beatles, aside from guest starring at an Elton John show a couple years after this. But it's nice to have, a live document of John's solo. Like I said, the music is mostly good. I just makes me wish he had more of a top flight band behind him. But it's John Lennon, so just about everything he does is good. Longtime crate resident. This was VCLT from Mazzy from last year. that I've been meaning to listen to, and I finally did. It's a volume 3 of the Mermaid Avenue series by Billy Bragg and Wilco. And for those of you who don't know, Billy Bragg and Wilco teamed up to record songs that Woody Guthrie had written lyrics to, but never finished. And I guess there's thousands and thousands of songs of his that, or maybe hundreds, not thousands, I don't know, of lyrics that Woody Guthrie wrote that he never put music to. So Billy Bragg and Wilco did albums, obviously 3 albums at least, of this type of music. And I was familiar with the first one when it came out. I remember hearing the song California Stars on the radio quite a bit. Enjoyed it. So this was a really nice surprise when I saw this pop up in a VCLT from last year from Mazzy. And I wanted to give it special due. So listen to it all the way through. It's a double album. And the music is great. I mean, if you like, obviously, if you're a fan of Wilco and that type of sound, then this record will go down just fine. But Billy Bragg turns in some very passionate vocals and puts a lot of energy to the music. And yeah, this was a really pleasant listen. So I'm very happy with this record. Enjoyed it quite a lot. Billy Bragg and Wilco, Mermaid Avenue, Volume 3. Very nice. Then, at the end of that week off, I'd gone to visit Emma over at 8 Vinyl Low. And if you saw our collab video that we did after doing some record shopping at 3 different stores, you'll know that we got a lot of good stuff. What I was completely surprised by was after we had done all of our record shopping and we went back to her place, and while my wife and her boyfriend sat in the living room chatting and playing with their dog Xander, Emma and I went to record, and right before we did that, she reaches behind like one of her speakers or whatever it was and whips out this record and gives it to me, which was something that I really had no idea about. This was from the second drop of Record Store Day. It's Parish Hall. This is a cult classic blues rock album from 1970. And it got reissued on the second Record Store Day drop and was pretty hard to get. I know a lot of stores ran out of this quick or even didn't even get in the copies that they were supposed to. So this quickly became like one of the hot releases, for lack of a better word. And yeah, Emma told me about this. Tim over at High Noon's Vinyl told me about this, said, Jeff, you got to get this record. It's right up your alley. You would love it. And of course they were right. I can't argue with them. And looking at this album cover, you'd think it would be like some kind of a singer-songwriter type of album, you know, maybe a guy, you know, who's, you know, in touch with his feelings, expressing them with like an acoustic guitar. And you play this record and it's hard blues with tinges of psych rock. Loved it. Played this loud on the headphones, so loud my wife could hear it across the room. And yeah, I really dug this record. So thank you for this, Emma. It's awesome. And if you like that kind of early 70s blues rock sound, Parish Hall is right up your alley. It would fit the bill just fine. I loved it. Then, one of the things that I picked up from that record shopping spree that I went on was a couple of albums by Richard Thompson, or Richard and Linda Thompson. This is one of his solo albums. It's a live album called Small Town Romance, where it's just him and an acoustic guitar for the most part. This came out in early 80s, I think. I want to say, I don't see a date on here. Oh, recorded January 1982. January and September 1982. So there you go. I think this came out in 83 then. Big fan of Richard Thompson. An awesome guitarist. Has a very deep, strong voice. And hasn't lost any of its power in the years since this was released. And he writes killer songs. Songs that are kind of dark, kind of on the twisted side, but man, when the moment is just right, it really hits you. He is the master at doing that. And accompanied with his virtuoso guitar, it's a hard combo to beat. So, yeah, we were at the first record store that we'd gone to, and there was a box of new releases that I'd missed that was right next to the cash register. So I set the stack that I was going to buy down, and the guy's watching me, and I said, let me just look through this box real quick. And I'm flipping, and all of a sudden, I'm just pulling. I think I picked up like 3 or 4 Thompson albums. So this is one of them, and it's great. Small Town Romance. I like it. Live solo in New York. The great Richard Thompson. Now, probably up to this point in 2020, this is, as far as my memory goes in terms of concert going experiences and emotional responses to the music, still is the best show that I've been to thus far in my life. And that would be Roger Waters. This is the concert document of the Us and Them tour, which took place in 2017 when I saw him, and 2018. So this is a triple album, and it covers majority of the show. As far as I remember, this also came out in a Blu-ray version as well, if you wanted to watch the concert. I chose the vinyl version to listen. The music is fantastic. You know, I can't say anything bad about it. I have issues with the vinyl with this one. These came in paper sleeves. I don't even know why record companies still use paper sleeves to put the records in, but there was all kinds of little paper bits all over the surface of the vinyl. Lots of scuff marks, especially I think on the first side of the first disc. Normally I don't clean brand new records that I buy because I really don't think you should have to, but I had to make an exception for this case, and I may have to try doing it again, maybe with scrubbing bubbles, because there's just a nagging crackle throughout this entire album, which drives me crazy. It did come with a download though, so I did download this. I put this on my iPod, which will be a crystal clear version, which is fine. But it's a slightly recurring problem with me with new vinyl. It's almost like a crapshoot now. Unless you know where it was pressed and where the actual physical record was pressed and produced, chances are you're going to be a coin flip away from getting a crappy copy. And this is, I mean, it's listenable. I'm hoping that cleaning will fix whatever's wrong with it, but it's an annoying distraction, which I hate to say because, like I said, this was such a great show. I know I saw this tour. It was the final show of their American leg, and it was in Nashville. And I remember the encore was Mother, which was something that they didn't play on the rest of the tour, but they did it for that night since it was the last show of the last leg. But I know he was going to tour this year, and of course because of COVID, all of that got pushed back. I have tickets to see him again whenever that concert will take place, hoping next year. So, and it's in here in Chicago. So, but yeah, this was an awesome show, awesome music, and an awesome visual spectacle. So, highly recommended. Okay, we're 20 minutes. I'm going to try and speed things up here. Another gift from Emma was this album by Dr. Feelgood. Now, of course, when I think Dr. Feelgood, of course, I think of Motley Crue. But this album came out way before that album from Motley Crue. Malpractice is the name of the album. This back. This came out in the mid 70s, I think. I don't have my glasses with me. Yes, I do. When did this come out? 1975. Yeah, there you go. But Emma recommended it and gifted it to me, and yeah, I dig it. It's it's mid 70s blues rock, and the copy was really nice. Sounded really nice. And yeah, this was a pleasant surprise because I had no idea who these people were, never heard of them before, completely blind listen, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised. So, good job, Emma. You got good taste. I liked it. Another thing that I've picked up from her over the last few months is a love of Bert Jansch. And this was something I found on our dig. This was a Record Store J release from the second drop. It's his double album, Live in Italy. The copy was great. No problems at all with the vinyl. It's nice and quiet. And the music itself was typical Bert Jansch. I mean, the guitar on this was a little dated sounding to me. It had that it had like that twangy sound from that a lot of bands had in the late 70s, because this was recorded in 77. And you know how the the Rolling Stones and Miss You, they had that kind of that wow sound on their guitars, and a lot of other bands did too. That's kind of all over this record, and it dates it for me. Still very good. I mean, there's plenty of acoustic guitar in here too, and violin and other accompaniment, but the electric guitars on this were very, 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 very 70s sounding. It didn't really distract me from enjoying the music. I still loved it, and Bert Jansch has a unique voice and a unique way of putting his material across, which I'll always enjoy. So this is my third album of his now, so I'm kind of on the lookout for his records now as I see them. So yeah, Angie is on side 4. Wonderful track, wonderful cut, and wonderful performance. But like I said, that 70s guitar, it's almost like a Grateful Dead type of sound, that Jerry Garcia, I can't even replicate it. But if you know what I'm talking about, you get it from what's on this album. Okay, 2 more. Brand new Bruce. Got this just the other day. It's his brand new release called Letter to You. And I just this morning finished watching the collab video with Mazzy and John at the Digital Gramophone and Chris at the Long Cut talking Springsteen for an hour and a half. And I watched it in one shot. And it was like no time at all had passed. And at the end, they talked about this album in depth. I think the cover could be better too. Mazzy called it the Neil Diamond Christmas cover, which is true. The music it's just as good as any band, any album that Bruce made with the E Street Band, because they all reunited for this. Recorded this quickly. I think I only did it in like 4 or 5 days. And yeah, Bruce is kind of on a renaissance, at least for me. I really enjoyed his album last year, Western Stars. Thought that was a great record. This is about as good as that one. Some of the lyrics are kind of clunky. I agree with what the three of them were saying in that video. You know, House of a Thousand Guitars was, it was okay. The music on these songs is pretty consistent and strong throughout, but some of Bruce's writing is a little hokey. I can't lie to you. So it's not a perfect album like his stuff from the 70s or even the early to mid 80s. But for a guy who's already in his early 70s to be able to sing with such a strong voice and write such strong songs and put them across with a band that is still in top form is pretty admirable. Now, those guys all talked about their concert experiences with Bruce. I've never seen him live. He's probably at the top of my bucket list. And I think he was supposed to tour with this album this year. And of course, obviously, that got canceled. So I'm hoping he tours at least one more time. Whether it's next year or whenever, somewhere down the road. I already told my wife, I don't care what it costs, I don't care when it is, we're going. So if Bruce tours again and he comes to Chicago or anywhere close to Chicago, I am going to be there. So it's probably going to be an expensive ticket. I don't care, I got to see him. Because I've been a Bruce fan for, 30 some years myself. Don't have all of his albums. I'm not as hardcore into him as some others are, but would definitely love to see him live someday. So, but this was a pretty good album, I have to say. Yeah, the cover, he could have done something else with the cover, though. Come on. Yeah. You guys get what I'm saying, right? Okay, last one. Earlier in my vacation week, I went to a record store by myself in Chicago called Dusty Groove. Picked up, I think I picked up like 5 records there, which will filter out into spin zones in the future. One of those albums is this one here. Eric Clapton and B.B. King, Riding with the King. This album came out in 2000. Here's the back. Actually, I should just take this out and show you the cover. There we go. You can see it. Here's the, since I have it out, here's the inner gatefold. To be honest, first off, right off the bat, I love this record. This record actually exceeded my expectations, and I'll tell you why. I think the presence of B.B. King caused Eric to bring his A game for every song, because every song on this record kicks guitar ass, I have to say. Lots of great interplay between the two. On some songs they trade lead vocals, others, it's just one or the other. But man, this album is a guitar lover's dream, I have to say. And the reason why it exceeded my expectations is because, sometimes Clapton is a little, not boring, but a little slow with some of his blues playing. It's like he plays the notes, but you don't get the feeling that he's feeling what he's playing. And that's what blues is all about. It's all about the feel of what you're playing to put the material across. But in this record, and I think mostly it's because of B.B. King, who's a legendary, iconic blues guitarist of himself, on his own. I think that inspired Clapton to really step up and amp up his playing because, man, like I said, you'd think this would be like a white boy blues album, kind of like, like yuppie blues, like people accuse Robert Cray of being, which is completely false. But this is not the case. This album recently got reissued, I think, for the 20th anniversary on blue vinyl. This particular reissue came out in 2011, and it's just black vinyl, but sounded fantastic. 180 gram vinyl, super quiet, and yeah, this is probably one of the best albums Clapton has done in probably the last 20 years, and it's a 20-year-old record, so hard to believe, but yeah. Riding with the King, Eric Clapton and B.B. King. A fantastic blues, electric blues album. Can't say enough good about it. And it was a very pleasant surprise. So I'd been curious about it because I'd heard the title track on the radio, especially when this album came out, often. But, they do Key to the Highway, which, rivals the version that Eric did on Layla. What other ones? They do a couple standards, but they also cover Hold On, I'm Coming, which is the Sam and Dave classic, which was kind of interesting. When My Heart Beats Like a Hammer. Fantastic lead vocal from B.B. King and guitar playing. Just great stuff. So if you're a Clapton fan or a blues fan or a B.B. King fan, of course, get this album. It's a winner. Okay, this went longer than I hoped, but thank you for sticking with me. We're over a half hour here, so I'm going to cut it off here. There's probably more that I wanted to say, but it's just left my mind, so I'm just going to cut it off here. Thank you all for watching. Real brief, the work situation has not abated. There's a lot of videos that I want to make, and there's a lot that I want to say, but just haven't had the time. But I did finish another King book. I finished the second Dark Tower volume. Going to try to do some sort of Stephen King reading project video on that, hopefully in the near future. And in the meantime, I'll just keep on spinning. So till next time, peace everyone. It's your boy Jeff, and I will see you soon.